All right, everybody. Thanks for listening today. This is Will, and I'm very excited to have Cody Wilderman on the phone. Cody's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he is one of the owners of Grassburger. And Grassburger has locations in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Durango, Colorado. And we actually interviewed Jess Colleen several years ago on this podcast, and she was in our book. Her and her husband had got Grassburger started, and Cody is now director of operations and one of the co-owners, and has taken the time to wrap with us today. So, Cody, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, give me your background in the restaurant business. How long you been doing this?
Yeah, so my parents actually, I guess my background started with my parents. They, up in Winter Park, Colorado, they owned two coffee shops and a coffee roastery, and I think they bought it when I was probably in third grade. And so it's my sisters and I grew up working for them, and obviously it's not a full scale restaurant, but I think that kind of ignited the fire in me to like the service industry and to want to be a small business owner in the service industry. And then 2004 I moved to Durango to race my mountain bike for Fort Lewis, and I walked into this burrito shop and kind of fell in love with it and applied and started working there as the griddle guy, the guy that takes your order, and worked up through the ranks, and actually was became an equity partner in that business, and I actually worked there for a little over 11 years. And then in 2016, I guess, I decided to make a change and came over to Grassburger, and I have moved to Albuquerque since from Durango in 2016, and I've been running it there. So really, I mean, restaurant industry for the last 13 years specifically, and then before that, working for my parents.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, I like to mountain bike. So tell me, what do you mean you went to go race your mountain bike? What's going on there?
Yeah, so I was a professional downhill mountain bike racer, and I turned pro, I think, when I was 17 years old, maybe. And, I was also a Nordic ski racer, so I got a lot of offers to go, race Nordic skis on the East Coast for some schools, but I had heard that Fort Lewis College had, basically the best mountain bike team in the country. They had won multiple collegiate titles, and it's actually funny because I'd only been to Durango a couple times, and I had never, ever even seen the college, but I was like, well, they have the best bike team, so I'll just go there. And I actually, applied, got accepted, and went to the school sight unseen. First day of class was the first time I had even seen the school. I missed orientation because there was a mountain bike race, a national in Durango. Actually, funny enough, and I raced for all 4 years. Actually, my sister and I won the collegiate national downhill title on the same day together. She won the women's, I won the men's, and I think in my 4 years we brought three team national titles to Fort Lewis. So it was good times there for sure.
Racing a mountain bike downhill in those mountains for competition, that's gnarly. So I won't get into that too much, although I may have to follow up and talk to you a little bit more about that. That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
okay, so then well you mentioned something. The first business you were a part of, you said you became an equity partner, and you were there for 11 years. Was that so? It was an existing business, and it looks like you're now an equity partner with Grassburger. Tell me about that process. How long are you there? How long were you at this other place? You started, cooking and taking orders and stuff like that. You worked your way up to equity partner. So give me a run of that process and how that works and unfolds, and then what happened when you left in 2016.
Sure, and I think it's been similar in both businesses, but I think that part of being a competitive athlete, like I said, I raced Nordic skis. I went to Junior Olympics a couple times for that. I've been really competitive at whatever I've done, and also I think it's just part what my parents built into me, but I have this thing that it doesn't matter what I was doing. I always said to myself that, I mean, even I stocked produce at Albertsons for like 6 months at one point in Durango, and it didn't matter what I was doing. I was going to do that job as if the business belonged to me and try to be the hardest working individual at that business. And I think that's kind of where, really, for me, everything kind of started is this business in Durango that I worked for. Like I said, it's kind of like a Chipotle or a Qdoba type, but it's like Durango's version of that. And I just worked harder, honestly, for a while than everyone else. And it was like, oh, hey, you wanna learn how to do this? Sure. Do you wanna do this now? Sure. Okay. Hey, you want to be a shift manager? Yeah, definitely. And then, I kept continuing to take care of that place like it was my own. And the founder at one point was like, hey, if you want to retire from bike racing and you want to do this, I'd love to make you an equity partner. And it was sweat equity, and I basically became the general manager. And then we opened another location, and I became kind of the regional manager. So kind of just really earned into that. Again, it was sweat equity. And so really a similar situation with Grassburger. They hired me to be the general manager of the Albuquerque store. So they actually approached me when the store was opening, and my wife and I couldn't make it happen at that time. We were just in a place in life where we felt like we couldn't do it. And it eventually got to kind of the breaking point where I was the founder of the Mexican restaurant I was working for, and we were not jiving. I'm sure, as you know, partnerships sometimes just don't go the way that you think they should, and we kind of had a falling out, and so the stars kind of aligned where I could make a switch. And at that same time, the Albuquerque Grassburger had been operating for, I think, about 6 months at that point, and the store manager they had here just really was not following the procedures, and the store kind of had really taken a big downward dip. And so I came on board to be the general manager. I replaced the current manager, and again, I just said, hey, I'm going to operate this place as if it was my own. I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, and I think that as a result of that, it obviously turned the store around. I mean, we've been doing so well. The growth we went from really negative growth to extremely positive, and our Yelp went from like 3 stars to we're getting close to being 5 stars, I think, now on Yelp, and Yelp's huge here in Albuquerque. And so Ed and Jess said, hey, we want to make you the director of operations, and so that was kind of the next step. And then from there it was like, you continue to bring value to the brand and all the stuff that you're doing, but we want you to really like be a part of it. And so we came up with a vesting agreement, and put some money in, and then, obviously there's a bunch of complicated legal things behind it, but we figured out a structure that works that essentially the more value I bring to the business and continue to bring to the business, and the hard work I put in, essentially that earns me equity, essentially.
Gotcha. So, is that the same? Was that the okay? So when you left the other place as an equity partner, and you had a falling out, I mean, I don't want to get into a lot of detail about that, but do you sell the equity back to the business, or how does something like that work?
That was actually part of our falling out. There was some stuff that happened with the equity, and honestly, again, we probably don't want to get too into it, but there was definitely some gray area that lesson learned. I learned a lot from that. But no, I actually, before I left, ended up selling my equity back to that company. So by the time I left, I was no longer an equity shareholder.
Okay, gotcha. And so you've obviously learned from that and structured it differently this time. And well, so it's interesting because you talk about, you clearly have a sense of accountability and treating whatever you do like it's your own. And that's such a, I mean, gosh, anybody that runs a business wants people that are like that, would do anything to have people that are like that, but it doesn't seem to be a real common trait. And at least I don't run across that a ton in the restaurant business, and maybe or maybe less and less so these days. I don't know, but tell me more about that. Is that, you mentioned being a competitive athlete. Is that something you look for when you're trying to find people? Do you think, I mean, is that fair, a common characteristic with most former athletes that you might interview, or is it something you find in other folks as well? And is that something are you really trying to find people that approach it the way you did?
Well, I think that, I mean, you can always try to find athletes, but athletes really, like serious competitive athletes are kind of hard to find, really. Yeah. And again, too, it's like, well, what kind of, if it's like, we got to find mountain bike racers. Well, unfortunately, most mountain bike racers, to be honest, are, kind of cheapskate, like sleep in their car type, like, warm their breakfast burrito up on their dashboard type characters, which is awesome. But I don't know if it's necessarily being an athlete. I think more or less it was kind of just how my parents raised me. Like, hey, I was raised with, in whatever you do it for the glory of God. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I've tried to live my life. And whether that was competition or what, or work or anything. But no, when we look at people, I think I like to look at the are they hungry, humble, and smart? That comes from Dave Ramsey. And,
hungry, humble, and smart. Okay, all right, I like it.
And that comes from the Entree Leadership podcast. I think that's actually one of Dave. I can't remember what book it came from. I think it was like John Maxwell or something. But it's the three traits of a good team member is: are they hungry, are they humble, and are they smart? And it's kind of, we're in the restaurant industry, so 2 out of 3 isn't bad. But no, I think that really you can't always find someone that is right out of the gate is going to say, hey, I'm going to treat this like my own business. But I think that through education and through training and through instilling core values in them, I think that you can get people there. I think that a lot of business, I've listened to your podcast, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and a lot of restaurant owners are saying that the hardest thing right now is people and trying to find good people. And I would agree in the sense that, the employment pool is definitely different than it was even 5 years ago. I mean, 5 years ago, we were hiring college kids who seemed pretty motivated, and now it seems like the tide has kind of changed. But I also think that part of it is that people are like, oh, the employment pool sucks, and then they kind of just give up, and they're like, whatever, no one's going to be motivated, so I guess we'll just deal with it. And that's kind of how it became at my last job. But what's been nice about this job is Ed and Jess have given me the freedom to say, no, that's wrong. We're not going to settle for, oh, well, you're a millennial, so whatever, just do whatever you want. And they've allowed us, we've said, hey, let's develop core values, and then let's hire to those core values, and then let's train to those core values, and let's build a really special culture where people care. And it's been amazing. I mean, we had, after I took over in Albuquerque, then we kind of had some management troubles up in Durango, and the culture kind of took a nosedive there. And so we built the Albuquerque culture, and then we've had to rebuild the Durango culture. But now we have, I mean, the the Yelp reviews, the Google reviews, the atmosphere in both stores is now the same, and it's been just this complete 180, really, as a result of some of the fun stuff we've been doing to get the culture on track. And I think that, I mean, it's all about what culture are you as the owner and the manager creating to engage your employees to treat it like it's their own.
What are some of the things that you do to do that? I mean, like you have a culture that you have decided is, or you have core values for the way you run the business. You obviously lead by example, and I know Jess and I do too. But what are the other things you do to really get people bought into that, and not just bought in at surface level, but really bought in at a deeper level where they're then ambassadors of that culture with new hires as well,
Sure.
so it just kind of snowballs over time.
Yeah. So, it really started, I would say, with me and kind of being like, we sat back after we kind of changed the Albuquerque culture, and then the Durango culture, we were kind of struggling, and we're like, man, like, why is it not the same? And so I kind of had to sit back on my heels and be like, well, what did I do here? And it's one of those things. I think I did it kind of just subconsciously, and so I started reading a lot of books and listening to a lot of leadership podcasts and things to kind of say, almost like deconstruct what I did from like reading about culture and stuff and being like, well, what did I do and why did it work? And so it really started with me and kind of taking like a personal inventory and then kind of saying, well, what's important as a leader? And really, I think what it comes down to is I changed the leadership culture first in Albuquerque by saying, hey, I'm not going to sit back there in the office and tell people what to do. I'm going to come to the line with you, and we're going to do this together. And when we're doing it together, I'm going to tell you why it's important that we do it together. And then we started doing staff meetings. And at the staff meetings, I was like, at one point I was just like, I thought it would be fun to do some kind of team building stuff where people got vulnerable. And so we actually now, it's funny, we call it getting weird at the staff meetings. But I always come up with a topic like, I want you to tell everyone something about yourself that no one else knows, or tell someone what you're most scared of, or tell someone how you feel loved and respected, like just kind of some weird vulnerable things. And then I want you to say words of affirmation about the person to your right or whatever. So we started doing stuff like that. And that was when I realized that was when things started to click. And then, so we started taking that to Durango. But then I read this book just recently, actually, called the Truth About Employee Engagement. And it used to be called the Causes of Job Misery. But it really summed it up really well into what I had done, which is that there's 3 reasons why people are miserable at work. And one is anonymity. So, people don't understand, like they're not known as an individual. So as a manager, do you actually care about them? As a leader, do you care about them? And the kind of one of the examples was in the book. It's like, Will, if you're working for me and I come in and say, I know maybe I know that you live with your parents, and I come in and I say, hey, how your parents doing? Versus coming in and saying, hey, Will, I heard that your mom was sick. I just want to check in, man, and make sure that everything's okay. So that's kind of the difference. Like, as a leader, are you like engaging with your people, and do they feel no? And that's kind of what I guess I had started doing here in Albuquerque, was really developing a personal relationship, but in a professional manner. Like, obviously, I wouldn't go drink beer with them or whatever. But like, we live in Albuquerque, and so I have some people here who found out they're struggling with drug addictions, and I would take them to. I would try to get them help. I would talk with them about it, and I have some people here. I used to own a CrossFit gym as well, and so I'm really into fitness. And I'd have some people that were like trying to get fit, and so we'd talk about nutrition, we'd talk about exercise. I would take them to my home gym, and I'd show them exercises, and then I would follow up like, hey, how's that going for you, or things like that. And then the next one is people feel irrelevant. So in their job, people need to understand who are they helping and how are they helping. And it can be their team members and their guests, and in what ways. But they need to know and understand that so that they know that they're making a difference in someone else's life. And then the next one is your measurement. So are people being measured in a way that's quantifiable, that they can quantify themselves, that it's not a manager saying, I did this, so maybe like reviews or throughput or whatever, but something that they can measure themselves to know that they're actually doing what's expected of them. And it's funny because I feel like this author put those three things in, which is exactly what we had done, and it started to build this culture where it was like, people understood. We started doing education pieces about why grass-fed beef and why healthy living and all these things, and why it's important to have the allergy protocols that we do, because it truly changes people's lives, and why do we take care of one another on the line, and why do we communicate this certain way, and then people really bought into that and understood that, like, if they care, it makes a difference, and you can see now people understand that, like, if they care about, making burgers and fries isn't that glamorous, but if you do it the way that we do it at Grassburger, you're going to change someone's day. And if you are friendly to people the way that we expect you to be friendly, you might just affect that person, and then they might go be friendly to someone else. And it's kind of that pay it forward thing. Like, how many people do you think are affected by you just being kind to one person a day? And so we've started doing that kind of stuff and encouraging that kind of stuff. And it's not then about, hey, you need to mop better, but it's about, hey, mop this way because this is going to help the next person, and then they're going to be able to help you. And it kind of creates this circular culture where people are happy to be engaged at work.
That's fantastic, man. I love that. You clearly are. You have a lot of you were doing this intuitively. You were doing this, and then you've read a lot about it, which is maybe helped crystallize what you were doing and validate why it was working. Did you? By the way, I know you read a lot. Have you ever read the book Drive by Daniel Pink?
No, I think I might actually have it though, because I've been, like I said, I really kind of got crazy about it and was like, what's working? And started listening to all these podcasts, and they kept saying, like, you need to read this book. And I literally, like, my Amazon cart has, like, I had like 1,000 books in it or whatever, but I bought a bunch of them, and so I think that's one of them. But if not, I'll definitely add that to the list.
It's a good one. I read it a few years back. It's called Drive, and I think the subtitle is the surprising truth about what motivates us. And he gets into mastery, autonomy, and purpose. But it's a good book. He does a good job. You probably would like it based on what I'm hearing from you. But so then what other? So you read a lot. You listen to what are some of the other podcasts you listen to? I'm curious. I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah, so the Entree Leadership one is a big one for me.
What is it called?
Entree Leadership.
Okay.
So kind of like entrepreneurship, but Entree Leadership, and it's a Dave Ramsey Solutions podcast. But man, they have they have Kristen Hadid. I don't know if you've read her book Permission to Screw Up, but that's a really good one. That kind of got me going into, like, hey, you need to educate people on your team, and not just train them, but actually educate them. And they have Simon Sinek and John Maxwell, and so every week is a new business leader, or they have some admirals from the Navy on who talk about that kind of stuff. But it's a really good one. And so many that I listen. Like I said, I listen to yours. There's just a bunch of them out there that I like to listen to, and I kind of jump around from time to time. But I feel like the Entree Leadership one for me has been kind of the biggest one, just because it's got so many different business leaders on it that it's really good, and they always have, like, good books to read on there, and a lot of the people that are on there are authors. So it's been really cool podcast, I guess, but I think as a leader, that's one of the best things you can do is listen and read, learn, and improve yourself.
Yeah, and it certainly it shows to the staff, and it shows that you're really engaged in not just ordering people around, but leading by example of trying to grow your skill sets
Yeah.
as well and your leadership abilities and so forth. So, well, dude, you clearly have a lot of passion for what you do. And I know one thing that Jess told me, which I found to be interesting. She said that you really believe in having a healthy staff, and that, you know, people, when they're healthy, well-rounded folks, it's great for everybody. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what do you guys encourage folks to do outside of work and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it's awesome. One of our core values is healthy living, and I feel like healthy living is kind of broad in general, so it kind of can encompass a lot of different things. But in our staff meeting this weekend, actually, we're specifically spending time talking about healthy living and how people can make choices. But we've got a couple fun things. So we did a month-long squat challenge where everyone starts at 50 squats and you add 5 a day, and there's some rest days in there. So I think it ended at like 250 squats or a day or so. I can't remember exactly what it ended. And obviously not everyone signs up for it, but we also did a paleo challenge where 30 days we tried to get everyone to eat paleo, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it's basically a diet where you eat meat, fish, vegetables, fruit only. So there's no sugar, no refined carbohydrates, no wheat, no dairy, things like that. So we did that and tried to get everyone to keep a nutrition log. And my wife and I, actually, when we owned our gym and stuff, we ran some nutrition challenges as well. And so we had a pretty big document that we had drafted, kind of explaining how to do it with some recipes and things like that. So I provided that to everyone who was doing it, and then we got some customers involved as well that wanted to do it. We have some plans to kind of just do some we're going to get our own YouTube channel, obviously for training purposes as well, but we want to do like a workout of the week where my wife and I or some employees, if they want, can get in on it, but basically kind of do like, hey, this is it'll be a 5-round workout, and you do 5 push-ups, 10 squats, and 10 pull-ups or whatever, and then have a video of how to do it properly and things like that, and just kind of encourage people to do that. But with that, we also, all of our managers have goals, and we break the goals up into different groups, and one of them is a physical goal. We have some managers who definitely fitness has not been really an option for them until now, and we're kind of pushing them to say, hey, like, I'm not asking you to be a CrossFit athlete. I think a lot of people kind of get intimidated by me because I guess I look like someone who is relatively fit and lifts a lot of weights or whatever, and they kind of think that when I'm asking them to like go to the gym, that's what I'm asking them to do, is like go crazy and be a meathead. But that's really not what we ask of our people. What we ask is like, hey, like, when you're at work, we're here to eat good food and clean food, and that's what our brand is all about. And try to make good choices and maybe eat less fries or eat lettuce wraps, but again, we're not going to force you to do that. We just want you to be aware of it. And then we're working with one of our people here in Albuquerque, one of our team members who wants to be a yoga instructor, and so we're working on getting her in to do like once a week, like a 6 a.m. kind of team member yoga class, where if you want, you can come and take basically a free yoga class where she benefits by learning how to teach, and we all benefit by learning how to do yoga, but as a team. And I know in Durango, we just got everyone, we basically purchased a corporate pass to the rec center there that allows everyone to buy a monthly membership for it's like $20 a month or something, super cheap. And then they're a lot of them are going as a group and working out together and kind of challenging one another. And we've got people that go on hikes together, but we're really just trying to encourage people to just work on their fitness as much as they can and make better nutrition choices. And that's part of our staff meeting education as well, is like, how do you read labels? How do you know what's in food? How do you make better choices? And, we can't hold people's hand and hold them to the fire and be like, hey, you need to eat gluten-free or you can't work here. But we can say, hey, here's some of the advantages working eating gluten-free, try it for a week, and if you have any questions, let us know. And so it's really just about encouragement and education for us with exercise, and it's awesome because I get employees that they go out now and they do like hill sprints up one of the dams here, which is pretty gnarly, and they send me videos of it, and then they'll like ask me in a text afterward, like, hey, are you proud of us? And I'm like, heck yeah, I'm proud of you. But it's like, I don't know too many other companies that the employees are going out in their own time and doing hill sprints, and then asking their boss, sending it to their boss and being like, hey, are you proud of us? I mean, to me that's just indicative of the culture that we're creating, one where people want to exercise just to exercise. So it's cool.
That's really awesome. The good thing about it too is I love that, man. And most people think, okay, they look at you and they go, all right, well, I'm not interested, or I'm not able, or both able to, recreate what he's done and spend the amount of time and effort going and being a CrossFit athlete. And he was a former professional athlete and yada, yada. But you can just literally go do sprints up a hill and you'll be in a million times better shape. Do it twice a week, go sprint for 15 minutes or so or less up a hill, and it's amazing. And then you'll once you start to notice the changes, of course, as then you're more personally motivated, and then then you don't need the external motivation. You become a little bit more internally motivated, but it doesn't take a lot. Go walk outside your door and sprint 40 yards down the street, and sprint back 40 yards, and then try it again tomorrow or a few
times.
On a
treadmill.
Yeah.
Walk on a treadmill for 5 minutes a day is more than, it's like we had a kitchen manager a while back, no longer with us, but he was pretty overweight, and he would be the first to admit it, and he was upset by that, but he didn't really know how to change it. And really, by starting just working at Grassburger, he lost weight because he was eating healthier. And then because he started to understand what was behind what was making Grassburger food healthier, he was making better choices at home. And so then he lost more weight. And then we started the Paleo Challenge. He lost more weight. And it's kind of one of those snowball effects. Like one of our store managers now, it's awesome. She moved into an apartment complex, and one of the reasons she chose that apartment complex because it had a good fitness center. And she was one who has been sort of against me kind of pushing for everyone to work out, but she started to try to work out as much as possible just because that's what we do as a company, and I mean, obviously it's like same thing with CrossFit, everyone's level of intensity is going to be dependent on the person. And so, her workout is different than anyone else's, but the fact of the matter is even if it's only once a week at the minimum, like that's more than when they were working at Grassburger, and I think to me that's what's important is I just want to plant the seed for future change.
Well, and I guess what it ultimately boils down to, if you're exercising, you're eating well, and you're sleeping well, then you're more fulfilled in your personal life and more balanced mentally and physically, and probably just bring a lot more to the team at work.
Oh yeah, and it creates camaraderie too. Like when you've got guys kind of like going and working out together, and I mean, maybe they're bro lifting or whatever, and they're trying to outbench each other, and then they can kind of like joke with each other at work, and it kind of builds that like camaraderie and like that sense of community. And I think that's what's really important.
Absolutely. Well, what changing gears a little bit, man. So you guys you've been there a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years. You've got the a great culture. It sounds like you're instilling, and clearly you have a lot of time and energy and passion invested into this. So where do you guys, where do you want to take this thing? What's next for Grassburger?
Oh yeah, we have some big plans actually. I think we finally, I moved into the director of operations role, hired a store manager, so I'm no longer the store manager, and so really Ed and Jess and I kind of, I guess you could say, are kind of the corporate employees now, right? And so we now have really worked on obviously getting the systems in place and getting everything so that these stores really operate independently. can kind of stand alone, and which allows us to really work on the business. And so we actually have a new store that we're trying to get everything going on it here in Albuquerque. We're trying to find another location here. We really want a second Albuquerque location, and so we're actively working on that. Ed has some partners in the real estate development world that have they're creating kind of a food hall concept in Durango, and Grassburger we're gonna put a Grassburger there with 2 other brands that we're gonna launch. And really, the sky's the limit. I mean, I don't know if you ever read the book Traction, but it talks about setting big, audacious goals, and we have some big goals. We want a lot of stores, and we're actively working on doing it. But hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have 1 store done here in Albuquerque, we're hoping, and then another, that food hall. Hopefully we'll have another Grassburger being built in that one, as well as 2 new brands, which are going to fall under different food categories, but still have the Grassburger values with, the clean food and corn syrup free and transparency in ingredients and all that stuff. So we're pretty excited about those. And then I think we really just want to kind of look at other markets, and it seems like really people are becoming more and more aware of what they're eating, and they want restaurants like Grassburger where they know that they can get GMO-free buns that are corn syrup-free and soy-free and grass-fed beef, and that the grass-fed beef is 100%, and that it's not from Australia or Europe, that it was raised in the U.S., and things like that. And I mean, where they can, if they have someone with food allergies, they can eat comfortably as well. So we really want to just kind of take it to different markets and really blow this thing up if we can.
That's fantastic, man. I love it. What else is on your mind? Anything else you want to talk about that I haven't asked you about?
No, I mean, I guess I just want to, encourage leaders to really focus on educating themselves and to be a servant leader, I think, before anything else. I think that one of the biggest challenges we've had with our managers is taking their mindset from being a manager to a leader. And one of the books that I was reading is really interesting. It said that you can't manage people. You can only manage systems and like a business, but you can lead people. And in order to lead people, in order to be a leader, you have to have followers. And in order to have followers, you have to have a vision, and you have to be willing to commit yourself to that vision. And I think that's really kind of an important piece, that I think a lot of people who are frustrated with their staff is because they keep trying to manage their staff rather than lead their staff, and they keep beating their head against the wall because they're sitting in the office watching the cameras and saying, oh, they're not doing it the way that I've told them to do it. And it's like, well, maybe you should relook at this thing and lead them through it and explain to them the vision. Explain. That's what we've done, is here's why Grassburger is important. Here's what we're doing is important, and show them that and get them to prescribe to that, but lead them through it rather than just talk to them about it. And I think that that's one of the biggest pieces that we've really worked on that has kind of changed our mindset, and we struggle a lot less with the employment pool now that we have stopped trying to manage people and have started trying to lead people. And it's funny because actually one of our store managers, he actually worked for me here in Albuquerque and moved up to Durango to run our store up there. He actually told me that when he started, that he thought that his job was to light a fire underneath everyone's butt. But that, I guess I told him this, that I don't remember saying it, but I guess it sounds like something I would say. I told him that it's not about lighting the fire under someone's butt, but it's about lighting a campfire and getting everyone to come around the campfire together. And I guess that kind of changed his whole perspective on everything. And so I guess that's my biggest encouragement to people is light the fire and get everyone to come around it, and stop trying to light it under everyone.
I love that, man. I love that. Well, it's sustainable and it's replicatable, and it's the kind of thing that will help you attract and keep really, really good people for sure, or
Yeah.
help turn people that you may not think are the best staff into great staff, which it sounds like y'all have done a little bit of
Yeah.
both. So, well, dude, Cody, I really appreciate it, man. This is inspiring, and I love talking to you, and I love hearing the enthusiasm for what you do and the passion for what you do in your voice. And I know anybody listening to it will pick up on that and really get a lot out of this. So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any parting thoughts?
No, just good luck to everyone out there running restaurants. It's tough work, and I think it's work where a lot of times you don't feel like you receive the gratitude that you receive, but it is important, and keep doing what you're doing, and I think every day just try to be better than you were the day before.
Amen, man. Well, thank you, Cody. That's awesome. You guys are awesome. Love what y'all are doing. Really love getting to know Jess a couple years ago for the book, and just have a lot of respect for the way y'all run your business. So, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Cody, take care. Have a good one. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, see you.